welcome to the Leadership Challenge show, where we're going to talk about matters of national importance and what has been happening in the country. My name is Brian Alusa, and I'll be standing in for Reverend Felix Kavoy, and I'm not alone. In studio with me is Pastor David Wamadhu, who is going to help me dissect and digest these issues so that we can be able to have an understanding of what is happening in the country. A very good morning to you, Pastor David, and thank you very much for creating time for us this morning.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm very happy, and I want to say hello to all our viewers this morning.
How has been the week? We've been having some stories breaking left, right, and center.
I think it has been a week that has been loaded with very many things. In the first place, there is what is happening at Bungoma. There is what has been happening in terms of EBC and many other things that has been happening. And I think it is something every day. I think it's a continuous thing. And there has been the issues about the Azimio and the plan they have, and Kamukoji issues. So there are quite a number of many issues, but I think we are settling.
Now let's just get straight into it and talk about what has been talk of town in the country. It has been about EBC. First, we saw the president, first of all, suspending all the Cherera 4. They were being termed now the Cherera 4. Then Justice Nyagaya was the first one to resign. Then we saw after that, the vice chairperson, Juliana Cherera, followed the suit. Then the latest one is Francis Wanderi. Now we are looking at a constitutional crisis at IEBC. And you've talked about what is happening in Bungoma. Based on the issue of the quorum and the quote that was there before during the BBI ruling, do you see that someone can move to court and challenge IEBC in regards to the by-election simply because they do not have the numbers?
Thank you very much. That is actually an issue of importance actually in this country, as you had started by saying, because matter IEBC, without the quorum, it is very hard for us to be able to move forward in terms of what we are supposed to do. One, whatever has happened actually in the last few days in terms of quite a number of people resigning, and also we know that the term for the other three commissioners is coming to an end end of January. So that what now that tells us is that what that tells us is that we'll be having a bit of an issue in terms of I don't know, the constitution. You remember the time that we had the issue to do with the quorum. There was actually a debate about whether 3 is enough or 5 is what is enough. Right now, because the 3 have already resigned, and you can see also Masit has also been suspended for the time being. So I think we are likely to see a bit of crisis, and I am not sure how this is going to happen. There might be a challenge in terms, because you see there is like what is happening in Bungoma. I know there are some other counties like Garissa, where they are also going to have by-elections. So the question is, how are they going to be able to do it without the right quorum? So as you stated, I think there is going to be a bit of crisis, and I think any Kenyan actually can now go and just say that we challenge what is happening with the IBC, because at the moment you cannot be able to do that, to do the by-elections. Maybe the by-elections, maybe they can be done because they are done through, you see, sometimes the announcements may not even have to come to the commissioners. I think if there is a proper arrangement in terms of the other teams of the IBC, most likely maybe they can do. But I think there will be some issues. There will be some issues because if anything happens right now, I think we are not in a very good place. But there is a lot of political issues, but we'll see as days goes by we'll be able to see what really happens. But I think we are staring at a crisis right now.
And we've also seen that the Azimio team are coming out with allegations saying that the president is planning something in regards to the unfair treatment of the four. They are talking about it and say that there is something that the president is planning based on what is literally happening. Do you see that the president has a hand in whatever is happening in the country at the moment?
Let me say that this was expected to happen. You see, when independent bodies, they go political, then politics is going to start being seen, manifesting itself. You remember before the announcement for the results for the President, Honorable William Ruto, there is a lot that was happening between the 3 and the 4. And the way it came to the public, it was not really well done, you know, in the sense that people could see, and that's why they were called the Cherera 4, because they could see that these people are on the one side, and this other one is like they are on another side. And therefore, you see, at the end of the day, what happens is that the current government, they felt it is like there is a bit of inference from the other quarter in terms of the Azimio on the 4. And they realized that these guys were really not for the government. And therefore, the people even who are actually behind this President Honorable William Ruto, they felt that these people really, they are not on our side. And therefore, it was expected to happen, that the push to get them out was already something that was real. And that is what is happening today. So I will not really say that he is not behind it, because actually when the motion came, when actually the bill came, actually he's one of the person who gave a nod and said, wow, these guys, they need to be investigated. Though at least they will hide about the parliament, but you see the parliament, what happens is that the team sits and then they agree on which way do we go. And if you want to see, they have the hard in it. Right now you find also, you see the Azimio in one thing, like the way they are saying, we want to set an office for opposition leader. You see, the Azimio came up with that idea, and also the president is also having the idea on how to support the same motion, having also done his own things. So this thing, when it becomes political, by the way, it is driven now by politics. And therefore, that's what we are saying. At the end of the day, right now, as we speak, the government is behind this thing. And that's why you can see people like the Azimio readers, one of the major things, the demand they are talking about is actually the IBC, about the 4. And they actually, even before many things happened, you heard what they had said, that we are going to go to the street, we are going to fight. We can even go and march to the State House and make sure that the 4 are not removed. But I think the way things are, you cannot actually joke with the sitting government. It has a lot of instruments, the power to be able to do all these things. And that's why you are seeing people resigning. Because at the end of the day, it is, I watched someone, like one of the lawyers, he was saying, you cannot take the goats to the hyena. So what does that mean? It is actually, when you go to where you are going, you are actually going to be like people are waiting to slaughter you and all these kind of things. So many of them, they are actually resigning because they are seeing this thing is not favoring us. It is only one of the commissioner we want to see whether she is going to start. It's only one right now. And also even them, what they are doing is trying to stop the judicial, at least they are trying to stop this thing from happening. And we are actually watching to see what is going to happen. But I would say the government is actually on this thing. It has gone political. And therefore, it is something that now is not being reasoned from the level that we can say it is a very objective reasoning point. It is actually more to do with politics, I would say.
And was it a good move for the 3 to resign rather than waiting for the time whereby they could face the tribunal? Simply because we've seen there could be some repercussions that could have come on the way if they could have been found guilty. One of them is that they will be barred from holding any public office. Do you see it as a good move for the 3 to literally resign rather than facing the tribunal? Because some of them say that we already know where it is going, so that is why we've decided to resign. Do you think that some of the issues issues is that some of them want to hold public office in future, and that is why they've decided we are going to resign. There's also another question in the country that every Kenyan is asking, is that will they appear before the tribunal, simply because we've seen that there are others who are literally talking and say that they should be able to appear before the tribunal, but they have resigned. So that is the biggest question that is in the country at the moment. Will they appear? Will they not appear? How do you see it happening?
Well, let me say that I like, there is one book I keep on reading, and it is by one author and a scholar by the name Stephen Covey. This book, it talks about the 7 habits of a highly effective people. And one of the principles, he has 7 principles, and all the traits. And one of the traits he talks about is that start with end in mind. So when you are starting something, you must start it and also placing the results at the end. So you are not just doing things without thinking about what is going to happen tomorrow. And therefore, what is happening with these people, actually they are looking at it from today and they are looking at it in the future. And what he is saying is, some of these people, they are actually, and this is exactly what we are saying. I think, let's be honest to one another. How did the group come about? You remember the 4 people, the 4 commissioners, they came after a very long time. You know, when we were having also some cases whereby we were talking and saying, look, is a quorum of 3 enough? Are they supposed to be 5? Because some of you find there is 3 and 5 somewhere. But now they were asking, is it enough in terms of having 3 commissioners or 5? And now, let me say, it took quite a lot of time actually, almost 2 years, with actually 3 in force. And you know, when they were brought in, I think they came in 2021. And in terms of how they came into their offices, it was seen as being political. You remember?
Yeah.
And actually they were brought in as a handshake. And many people talked about it, this is a handshake commissioners. And therefore, from the beginning, and that's why we say beginning and the end, from the beginning, the perception was that these people are just political figures. And therefore, what they are doing is actually they are doing something that is politically, you know, it is brought in a political way. It has a political connotation. And therefore, what is happening with these guys is that politicians, by the way, many times, they actually look at what is best for themselves. And therefore, given that their orientation is on a political base, what we can say is, as you said, these guys are looking at, if for example we go to that tribunal, and we go and it is investigated, and it is seen that we did something which is not correct, which is not right, you are saying that it may mar my future in terms of any other ambitions that I have. And therefore they looked at it and they said, look, it is better for me not to go this direction, because you see, at the end of the day, you ask yourself a question. This case of the 4 had also been taken to the Supreme Court, isn't it? Yeah. And this Supreme Court actually had discussed, and that's where the president now was declared, the current president was declared as the person who won. And therefore their case is very weak from all the quarters. So I think when they look at that, they say, well, let me not go this direction because it may mar my plans or my careers in future. And therefore it is more to do with a lot of politics actually in between. And they are behaving like the politicians. There is no independence in what they are doing. They are actually more in terms of like any other political leader. And therefore the other issue is in terms of resigning. You know, when you resign, there are some of your benefits you don't lose. When you have been sacked, because, you know, there are some, like, even in terms of the offices where we go. If, for example, you resign, there are some of your things that you will actually not lose in terms of your benefits which you had gathered for that particular time. Is it if it is a dismissal, that you actually did something which was not right and you are dismissed? What happens is that you lose a lot of your benefits. So I think these guys are also calculating and asking themselves, If we actually wait and this case goes the other way, that we don't win, what is it going to happen? We are actually going to be dismissed. We are not going to be able to enjoy some of the benefits that we are supposed to enjoy. So I think it's a soft landing for them, and they are looking at it as which is better. Is it actually to lose, or what we have actually gained, or is it better? And you see, like Masit is saying, look, I think I will go to the head, but we'll also be able to see whether she will go to the head. But I think it is more on calculations, people looking at it, that there are quite a number of issues that may come into force if they actually go to the head and the case does not go their way.
Now, before we move away from that and talk about the demands by the Azimio team, let's talk about this issue that started in the lead-up to the general election, whereby President William Ruto came out openly and told Raila Amolo Odinga that I want you to be, if I win these elections, then I want you to be the opposition leader. My government will not allow any handshake, and what they usually term, quote-unquote, nusumkate. So, we've seen that Kenya Kwanza leaders or members of parliament have been told by the president to look for a way they can include the office of the opposition leader. It is not any small office, a very powerful office of the opposition leader. But there is this one big question. This office will be a threat to the executive. It will be a threat to the National Assembly, simply because it is not in the constitution, which clearly means that if the Kenya Kwanza MPs are trying to include the office into place without going or having a referendum, do you see it working that way, or we shall be heading to a referendum simply because they have to amend the constitution to include the office of the opposition leader?
Actually, you see, if you are changing the structure of the constitution, there is no way that you can actually change the structure without actually going the referendum way. And therefore, if they are going to make those major changes, they are ready actually to go the referendum way, because you cannot actually, and that's why you realized even in the office of the, you remember the time they were talking about the 5 offices. And that is one of the things when they were talking about the BBI, where they were saying that BBI is actually creating jobs for the people. There are some things that they could have been able to implement even in parliament, and they pass them and they go. But anything that really affect the structure of the constitution, the frame of the constitution, you cannot actually do it without the referendum, the participation of the people. As you have said, this is a very big office. It is going actually to change our constitution in a big way, because this is something that has never happened. And therefore it is something, that's why you are finding that the both people, that is Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza, they are actually scoring towards the same goal. And they are saying, look, we want just to bring some few amendments. You have what you have, we have what we have. We come to a point and agree this is the way it is going to be. Then after that, definitely there is no adjustment. That office cannot actually, and I want to see it how it's going to be set. It cannot just be set by pronouncement. It has to be something that has to be enacted in our constitution. And I think there is quite a lot that we are going to see. And it is something that, well, I say, if the government is actually ready to do something, and you know, it is for the first time. I think it is the first time that we are seeing them talk the same language in terms of the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza. They are talking about the same way. And therefore, if they are talking about the same way, it becomes easy in terms of actually going the referendum way. It is easy now because this thing is unopposed anyway. It is something that is not opposed. What I am not sure is, will they also introduce other things in the process? Because the constitution, as we are saying, there are some few areas, even in terms of the BBI, there are some areas where they realize they need a bit of change. So the question is, if they are going that direction in terms of changing the constitution in one way or another, are they also going to put other things? Because if they put other things, now you'll find that is where the problem may start coming in the sense that some people say, no, we don't want this, we want this. But I guess if it went alone in terms of now the way they are talking about that office, because that office, one, why it has to be done in that referendum way is because, one, as you said, it is going to be a fully-fledged office. This office is going to be funded by Exchequer. So it is actually the Kenyans who are going to fund this office. And this, even now the leader, he is also going to be going to parliament once in a while. Yeah. And you know, it is something that has to sit on the constitution. You cannot just have a foreigner just go to the parliament and to address them. And therefore, if it has really to be an office that can actually operate even to the parliament level, then I believe it is something that has to be done in the constitutional way. And the constitution, any change, any major change in the constitution, it has to go referendum way.
And is the country ready for this office?
Let me say, I think, again, it is a political issue. Let me tell you, all these things are happening. It may take a lot of time. But what is happening right now, it is the government that is trying to govern. You know, they have seen like what was happening on 7 at Kamukoji. You cannot really govern the government the way things are happening. You find like now on 12th, the Azimio, they had said they are going to have a parallel rally. Yeah. So it is like two governments, by the way. It is a government for Azimio, and it is a government, now the ruling government. And you find that one of the challenges that they have, by the way, you cannot actually underestimate the power of the opposition right now, the Azimio. Because looking at the numbers, it is like Kenya has been divided from the numbers who actually voted for the two leaders. It is like Kenya is divided into two. And therefore, you cannot ignore them in one way or another. For now, the leadership to be able to be comfortable and rule, they really require the support of the opposition leader. Without the opposition people, without that support from the opposition, it becomes too hard for them to operate. And you can see also again, you see like what is happening in Western. Right now, you know, I think the mandate that the chief minister has been given is actually to consolidate the bloc of the Western people. Why is it that they are actually trying to bring that bloc together? It is actually bringing and making sure that it is easy for them to be able to manage the politics of the regions, the politics of Kenya, and all those things. And that's what is happening. For the first time, yesterday, they were at Kakamega. What did you see? The same man who is actually very vocal at Wally, who was actually saying the other time, I want to tell you, Ruto will never be the president of Kenya. It's the same guy actually who appeared there.
And welcome the president.
And welcome the president. So you see now what they are trying to do, the government is trying also in its own wisdom to be able to govern without a lot of noises. And therefore, these things which are happening here is actually to reduce the noise. The time may actually be quite a long time. You may find that it is not going to be something that tomorrow we are going to have it in place. It may take a lot of time, but what it does, it cools the temperatures and it helps the government now to be able to manage and to govern in a good way.
And you've talked about Western Kenya, and something happened also. All the governors from the counties in Western Kenya were there welcoming the president for the 2-day tour. And you could see that these leaders were elated, jubilated that the president is here. You could see all the leaders who literally did meet Musalia Mudavadi in Nairobi, talk about the Mulembe Nation, were present during that meeting. But allow us to take a quick commercial break. But after the break, we'll come back and talk about the demands by Raila Amolo Odinga or the Azimio Brigade. And Pastor David Wamadhu will be helping us to just understand what these demands mean and if the president will be buying some of the ideas that have been tabled by the Azimio Brigade. See you after the break.
College of Beauty and Applied Science is an institution that is legally accredited by Technical and Vocational Education Training Body. We offer diploma and certificate courses in cosmetology, hairdressing, beauty therapy, community development and social work, counseling and psychology, nutrition and dietetics, community health, home care management, housekeeping management, and also certificate in front office operation. For inquiry, visit our Nairobi campus at London Beauty House, 5th floor along Taveta Road. Or you can get in touch with us on 0726 031 109 or 0784 515 606. You can also email us at candycollege@gmail.com.
Top Beauty College of Hairdressing, Beauty and Fashion is an accredited institution by Association of Cosmetologists Kenya. We offer diploma and certificate in hairdressing, beauty, nail technology, barbering, salon management, business skills and fashion design.
Here at Top Beauty College, we offer professional skills to our students, and we have professional staffs who take them through their courses. We look for attachments for our students. People also believe in us to give our students an opportunity to get attachments. We also offer accommodation for students who come from a distant home and even from different counties. We have accommodation which is very affordable.
December and January intake is ongoing at our main campus. We are located at Githunguri, Utawala, opposite Automat Supermarket next to Mama's Hotel. Get in touch with us on 0721 628 831, 0721 628 831, or you can email us at topbeautytrainingcollege.com.
Welcome to Top Beauty College. Top Beauty College, empowering dreams to come true.
With great love and joy, I especially welcome you to worship with us at Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu. This is a true family church, a true spiritual home. Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu is home to exuberant prayers, deep and true worship. A house of prayer that will leave you feeling refreshed. Our first service starts at 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and our second service starts at 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have our midweek service from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and every Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. we have our night of glory. This is the church you have been looking for. This is the place for your spiritual growth and maturity. See you this Sunday and karibu sana.
Every morning, every Saturday morning, we lit up your weekend with the Manifest Show.
Kama wewe ni mpenda rumba, unapenda dancehall, unapenda reggae, hapa sisi ni kuchambua ndani ya Manifest Show. Kama kawaida tutakuwa na amazing interviews na of course amazing guests lined up for you. Show ni Manifest. Ama ni aje, tunakupatia word, tunakupatia reve, tunakupatia direction.
EBN TV is the place to be every Saturday morning from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. You don't want to miss this for anything in the world.
EBN TV, it's DJ Show, Spin Master. Ay, ay, ay. Ini dance ya kanisa. Oh, yo, yo. Jack.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is the Leadership Challenge show whereby we converse and talk about matters of national importance. And with me in the studio is Pastor David Wamadhu, who is helping me to just break down these issues that are breaking in the country so that he can make us understand what is literally happening. Now, before we did go for the break, we were talking about the office of the opposition leader, but before that, the Azimio team did come up with certain demands, close to 11 demands that they want the president to literally deal with. And among those demands, we'll be talking about the World Bank. In the morning, the Daily Nation this morning talks about the World Bank's bittersweet bill for Kenyans.
Yes.
And some of the things that Raila Amolo Odinga and his team were asking is in regards to the subsidies being brought back. Talking about the fuel subsidy, the Unga subsidy, and also the COVID-19 school fees subsidy.
Correct.
But President William Ruto is reading from the same script as the World Bank. And the World Bank told the president to do away with the subsidy itself. Do you see President William Ruto going per what the Azimio team is asking?
Well, thank you. That's a very good question. And I think even before I answer, let me give a bit of a background in terms of the current situation in this country. It is a situation which is not very good. It is a dire situation because you can see in terms of the cost of living, and I think this is one of the points that the Azimio are talking about. It is actually one of the points which is very difficult for the Kenyans people. And it is very difficult actually to manage hungry people because Kenyans right now are hungry people. Quite a number of things are not really happening the way they are supposed to do. And you see, the thing is, what really need to happen is, like you see the World Bank, they are pushing so hard in terms of changing the long-term measures, but also forgetting about the short-term. And I think the short-term is very important. And Azimio have actually, gotten into the short-term. And they are looking at the changes in terms of making sure that their people are able to live for today. Because if you are not careful, you will actually lose generation right now.
Yes, true.
So the question is that we need to ask ourselves is that, yes, it is good what we are talking about in terms of the future, in terms of not, subsidizing the consumption. But the question that we really need to ask ourselves, how long can Kenyans stay in this kind of a position that they are in? In the sense that, you see, and yesterday I was talking to someone and saying, well, we had projected that, you see, like the fuel will have come down by December. We are actually in December. The fuel is coming down, but at what percentage? You are finding that it is only 1 bob, 2 bob. That where it is actually somewhere where it is still very high. You find the businesses are not even able to make enough profit for themselves. So the businesses that you want them to fund the nation through, you see, like the corporation tax, the VAT and many other things. So the government needs these businesses. It needs the people of the Kenyans to be able to generate so that they can be able to fund in terms of our operations. If you find that things are going down every other time, it becomes a bit difficult in terms of the country moving forward. So I think one of the things that really need to be done is, one, from where I sit, not that I am supporting any other, any party or anything, but I think it is very good for our president to consider the state of the Kenyan people. Because you see, when they talked about Unga, they had also said within how many days? Within our first, in fact, the deputy president talked about it is only that this case is making us not to be able to actualize what we actually told Kenyans will be able to do. And you see, within the 100 days, and which I think the 100 days are almost coming to an end.
Ending December 22nd.
Yes, that is it coming. And you find that within the 100 days, there are some few things they have done. But in terms of the cost of living, I am not sure. Maybe some few people are feeling it. But I think most of the Kenyans are actually in a state whereby they are suffering and struggling in a very big way. And therefore, right now, because of the pressure that the president is having, because you see, some of the monies, I know like now he is almost about to get a quarter of $1 trillion from the World Bank, and that's why they are putting all these things. He is trying to balance in terms of he needs the money, but also the question is he needs also the people of Kenya. Because it cannot be that you are also going to get all the forces from the Western and forget about your people. So I think eventually there are some few things that he will be able to do, because you see, like the subsidy, we said like the subsidy of fuel was removed, education, many other things. But the question is, there is a subsidy which was given on fertilizers. You see. So actually what I would say is that the president really need to balance in terms of for a short time. He needs to have the plans for short term, mid term and long term. So that for short term he can also be able to see what is it that he can do. We are not saying it is a continuous thing, but before we get to a place whereby we can survive without the subsidies, I think we need him to do a little bit more in terms of bringing the cost down for some of the things. Because right now unga is still very high, and that is one of the point that actually the Azimio team are talking about, the cost of living. You find like the fares are going to be up and many other things, and they have been up for quite some time. So if you look at it, when you go like to the supermarket right now, and you go with 1,000 shillings, how many things can you actually take home? There are very few things.
True.
And how many people are able actually even to have that 1,000? It is actually not many people, because when you look at it, they have school fees, they have transport, they have food, they have medical, they have so many other things. So you find that you can also have a country that is polarized by the fact that people are not moving forward. People are not even able to satisfy themselves. And that's why you find, even when they are talking about the schools, you had, and I think this week, they were talking about they want to remove the issues of boarding schools for the primary schools and such things. And you know, when you look at it, you are asking, and the parents are telling you, my friend, you cannot remove this thing. Why? Number one, it is because our children get food when they are in boarding school. When they come home, they will not be able to get this food. You see?
3 times a day.
Yeah, so you see, there are so many things, challenges that are facing the Kenyan people. And therefore, the government cannot sit pretty and just saying that our fathers are saying 1, 2, 3 things. They really also need to think about what is it that we can do for our people. And I think that is the basis as to why you are saying the Azimio people giving some few demands, because they can actually have a point that the people of Kenya are actually not in a very good position right now. So I think it is only good for the president to rethink about some few things.
And based on the demands itself also, they were talking about holding parallel Jamhuri celebrations. Then they came out and said, change of heart, we are not going to do that. Do you think that maybe the president could have reached out, or maybe what we were talking about earlier, the office of the opposition leader could have made them change what they wanted to do? Or did Raila Amolo Odinga feel like if he will be doing that, then he will receive the full force of the law from the president?
Actually, that's one of the things that I think it was a consideration. I think the government is also trying to lobby in a very big way, and to see what is it that we can do to make these guys to be a bit silent. In the sense that you see the things that are happening, they are finding that when they put the pressure on the government, the government is also considering some of their positions. In terms of right now, you see like the Azimio. You find that the government must be doing something, you know, behind the scene. They must be talking. Because these are politicians. They actually know one another. They have been in this government for how many years? Many of them, they have been together for over 30 years. And therefore, they know one another in one way or another. So sometimes, for me and you, we may be seeing them move up and down. But behind the scene, these guys, they keep on talking. They communicate to one another. And you see what is happening right now, I believe, in terms of people like Azimio, in terms of this, what was to happen on 12th Jamhuri Day. Number one consideration, this is not good for Kenya, even to the international world. It is not actually a good thing, whereby you are having parallel meetings. You have a president who is governing his own people, and you have another party which is governing. There must be also a lot of pressure, because I know the government, when you hear the government say that we are going to give you security, this security is positive and negative. It is somewhere you may get yourself into a problem because the government is watching on you. You make a very small move, which they can actually say, here it is. And now they start bringing troubles on you. So I think they are also looking at that factor and saying, here, it is not a very good thing because, you know, sometimes you can control 2 or 3 people. There is one madman who will just come and just change the situation. And now within no time you start reacting in a different thing. And when you start reacting with that, you find your people now being locked in. And now when it starts that way, it starts actually destabilizing even the people and many other things. And I think they are looking at all those things and realizing, no, this may not be the good thing. And again, as you are saying, several things are being put on them. They are being told, look, this position is going to be yours. We are going to help you. We are going actually to vote for you to get into this. So for them, they are feeling we are gaining. So because we tried this and we can see something is happening, let's now first of all hold it a little bit and we see what happens. The other issue is, if you want to see, there is a lot of change, shift. And that is what we had started by saying. Yesterday, I looked at the news when our president was at Kakamega. And I can tell you the people that I saw for Azimio were very many. So it is telling you there are some people who have realized that this time is for us to serve our people. Because after some few years, people will actually come and put me on an interview. And they asked me, what did you deliver to us? They will not actually now tell me you are in Azimio, so you are good to go. Or you are in Kenya Kwanza, you are good to go. So people are looking at what is it that we can benefit from. And that's why you are finding that when you call for these maandamano and all these kind of things, some of your leaders, again, they have said, we will work with the government. So you find that you are going, but not 100%. There are some people who are not coming for your meeting, yet they are your people. So that now, I believe, it also makes the opposition to feel we are not in a safe place. And therefore, some of these things are making them to rethink, is this the right strategy? Because all the time you have to go back and ask yourself a few questions. The strategy which you introduced yesterday, you analyze and you say, did it work for me? If yes, you can actually continue with some few improvement. If it did not work for you, you can now say, for the time being, let's stop it and let's rethink about what else we are able to do. So I think there are so many things that are happening, but I really don't think their intention is to continue with this demonstration. Actually, it is for them to secure a position. And because the government is actually willing to work with them, I think from that, a lot of talks are happening, which are making them to change the tune.
They have also come out to talk about the Hustler Fund. And all the Azimio leaders are telling Kenyans not to pay what they have gotten from the Hustler Fund. Is it a good move based on them being leaders of national importance in the country, based on the numbers they have? Do you see this Hustler Fund lasting, simply because if all these leaders came up and say that do not pay back your Hustler Fund, which clearly means that the 6 billion that has been borrowed, we may see maybe close to 4 billion being repaid, but 2 billion has been defaulted.
Now let me tell you, some of the statements from our leaders, and I would not shy away from saying, are unethical. They lack moral authority and integrity. If, for example, you are taking a debt and you don't pay, already you are criminal. Because it is actually like you come and you get my things, even me, you tell me, give me your money, I'll pay you back, and later on you change the tune. It is actually something which is not right, and I think they really need to get back to their senses. You cannot tell your people to do the wrong thing, Because in the first place, for you not to honor your promises, your agreement is already a bad thing. And therefore, I would not support that kind of analogy. It is actually a bad thing from the start. You see, let me tell you, what they are doing is actually training people to be very irresponsible. That you can come to my house, take whatever you want to take, and go away. It is actually the culture. By the way, that is actually what they are telling the Kenyan people. That you can actually take someone's things and you just go and don't feel anything. It is a bad culture and it needs to be broken. Let me say, the leaders that we have, right now, because they are actually getting their salary at the end of the month. They are actually having the cars financed by the exchequer. They are having medical in place. They don't understand what is happening with the Wajiko at the ground. Let me tell you, Brad, let me say, 2,000 may mean something big, for me. 2,000 may mean not much for you. It depends on where I am. If, for example, and we did that analysis last week, for the people who are selling vegetables and fruits on a daily basis, if you go and count their stock, how much stock do they keep in a day? You will realize quite a number of people are within that range of 1,000 to 2,000 on a daily basis. So 2,000 and that, it means a lot. So if you actually take and you are blacklisted, you cannot get 2,000. When you are low in finances, do you know what these guys are telling you? Is that you cannot trade. Will they feed you? Will they give you that 500 or 1,000? They will not give you. So I think let them allow the people of Kenya to be helped. Because if you pay and you are actually having a record, you know, as you pay, you are able to progress even to higher figures. So yeah, the credit score. So let the Kenyans people be allowed to operate freely. Let them pay, let them access funds, because many of them, they could not access the funds from the commercial banks. So it has started small, and they have only introduced the phase 1. There is now the other phase 2, and 3 and 4. Yes. So why don't they allow the Kenyans to get into that level? Because we are saying we need to ensure everybody has the food, is able to do business with the small monies that comes in. So let the political leaders not make statements which are uncalled for. Their statements are lacking integrity, and I think these are some of the things they need really to do away with.
Now, allow us to take another commercial break, but after the break we'll talk about the issues to do with the scrapping of primary boarding schools that has brought different conversations in the country. We shall get to talk about that after the break. See you after the break.
You are not a mzee because your age says 60 or 70 or 80.
Yes.
You are mzee because Kalonzo has been around from 1985.
Yes.
Ruto has been around from 1992.
Yes.
They are the same age.
Biggest problem in Kenya right now, if you asked me, is not just, you know, that we have problems, but that we have problems with a more enlightened church that is doing absolutely nothing.
But guess what? I don't know whether she won or not, but she did win well, she's not the governor of Kirinyaga.
Join Reverend Felix Kavoy on the Leadership Challenge show every Friday from 7:30 a.m. Candid, bold, and insightful conversations.
The greatest show on EBN TV, Your Faith Today, hosted by Reverend Felix Kavoy in conjunction with EBN Television this festive season.
We are partnering in putting a smile on the less fortunate in one of the slums around us, Kiambu and Sinai Paradise.
You too can be part of this love sharing this Christmas by donating foodstuff, sanitary towels, clothing, or by contributing to the M-Pesa number 0794 195 392.
It will bring my name, Reverend Felix Kavoy, and I will be accountable for every penny. In kind, you can drop at the Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu offices at the reception. God bless you, and may you have a Merry Christmas and a blessed New Year.
Kandy College of Beauty and Applied Science is an institution that is legally accredited by Technical and Vocational Education Training Body. We offer diploma and certificate courses in cosmetology, hairdressing, beauty therapy, community development and social work, counseling and psychology, nutrition and dietetics, community health, home care management, housekeeping management, and also certificate in front office operation. For inquiry, visit our Nairobi campus at London Beauty House, 5th floor, along Taveta Road. Or you can get in touch with us on 0726 031 109 or 0784 515 606. You can also email us at kandycollege@gmail.com.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, Pastor David, before we conclude, let's talk about the scrapping of primary boarding schools that has been praised and bashed in equal measures. Stakeholders in the education sector, including the Union for Teachers, coming and welcoming the move, but parents have said no to that. What is your take in regards to scrapping off of boarding primary schools?
Thank you. This is, again, an issue that has been here for, I think now this is the second week after the pronouncement by the CS of Education. And I would say this current government, there is one thing they are not doing right. From where I sit, I have been observing, but there are several things I would say they really need to change how they are doing them. You see, before you make any pronouncement, there is a need for public participation. You don't actually start climbing the tree from the top. You start from down and you go up. What is happening with them is that I think it is either testing waters that they are doing or something like that, because you find that they just go and do a pronouncement, but you ask yourself, was there a participation, public participation on this matter? You look at it and you can't see. Now, the issue why it is having so many challenges, even in terms of the implementing it, is because one thing, did they look at the issues? Why is it that the parents take their children to boarding school? That is the question number one they needed to answer. And you'll find that parents take their children to boarding school for many various reasons. Number one, it is the community where they stay. Some of the areas where the parents stay, they feel that our children, if they continue behaving or being in this same environment, it is very difficult for them to, to even have excellence in their academics. And they say, we want now to make sure that our children are actually in school so that they are able to study well without a lot of interruptions. The other thing is, when you find that some of the children, and there are quite a number of people that you find, there are some people who are pastoralists. There are people you find that they shift their base every now and then. You see, like if you go to some areas where they are pastoralists, today they are here, tomorrow they're in another different place. Now the question is, which public school are you going to say that these parents need to take the children to? Because they keep on shifting their base. So you find that some of the parents will actually be comfortable in terms of their children being in that boarding school because they will only be coming once. When they come once, they can come to where you are. But at least you cannot keep on shifting and actually making the children, the more they shift, the farther they go from the school. So some of the people can be out of school by that issue of shifting. The other issue that we really need to ask ourselves is, when we talk about the boarding school, some of the parents, why they have been making a lot of noise, is because a one-off kind of a thing. You see, like the food and the cost of living is quite high. If, for example, a parent has even like 3 children, they find it easier actually to go to public school rather than actually for the pupils to be at home. Because when they look at the UGA, you know, there is the synergy in numbers in terms of when the school is buying, it buys in bulk. So there are quite some things that they get in a better price than if you just went alone to go and buy. And therefore you find that sometimes there are parents, and parents are quite right. They are saying, look, our children, when they are in school, they can afford at least 3 meals in a day. When they come to where we are, even the parents right now, and that's why we say the president really need to look at what is happening with the Kenyan people. And they are telling you that the best we can afford in at home is maybe 1 meal. So you find that there are some benefits that the parents have looked into, and these are some of the things that the parents are saying, look, you are telling us to stop what we have been doing, but you have not given us a solution. And that is one of the things they needed to sit down and ask the parents. One, understand, why is it that we are going for boarding school? Because now the parents have told you that we are not able to take our children to boarding school. It is the government which want to do the other way. I know the government is talking about we want to make sure that every child has the equity, you know, in terms of the equity. Because we know the boarding school, some of the children, we actually have an upper hand than actually in the public. But the question is, it is not the parents who have said they are not going to pay. The issue is they took the children to boarding school because they had varied reasons. So they needed to have understood which reasons are making the parents to take the children to boarding school. It is more expensive a bit, but they are willing to do that because they are also looking at their future and saying, look, we want our children to excel like any other person. And therefore, these are things which we are saying, I think the government really needs to look at some of the things. They really need to have a proper participation, because right now they will be thrown. Actually, in terms of making these changes, I think even they will still be thrown to the people. It will not just be implemented like that. It will go to the people. And it's the same way you saw the CBC. CBC started. What happened after this government came into power is that there was a committee which was chosen to go back to the people. So why do we keep on doing things like that? Why don't we do things right at the word go? And therefore, those are the things I think we really need to understand before we make this pronouncement. Parents have a good reason as to why they have been taking the children to boarding school. And therefore, to disrupt the status quo, I feel it is not the right thing at the moment.
So, according to you, it's that public participation should be the core of any government. If it wants to do anything that involves the people, they should be able to involve the people the same way they did with CBC. Rather than implementing, then when there is repulse from the people, now you go back to the drawing board. They say that now let's listen to you. We also see the issue to do with junior high, and parents were saying that we have already selected the secondary schools that our children will be going to now. Where are we? What are we going to do?
See, actually, that's why Brian is saying that it is not the right thing, because the parents, they were informed about what they did by the status that was there. Yet you go now, you take them back, very many steps backward. And even right now in terms of the CBC, it is still not very clear to many parents the direction it is taking. It is actually now, because you see, one, there are some few secondary schools, there are some private people who had been told by the former regime that you need to increase your capacity in your schools so that at least we can be able to accommodate these children. Some of the people have undergone a lot of expenses, very huge. And it is very bad to make people to go to such length to be able to adjust themselves. Some of them, they have taken loan for them to expand. Yet now you tell them, look, we are not going that direction. That's why we are saying it is very bad when the government starts things in the wrong way. And now it comes again to try. For them, they don't care because they don't know what kind of the capital have you put in the whole of these things. What kind of investment have you put in the whole of these things? And that's what it means. The parents are feeling bad in the sense that you are now changing their plans. As you are saying, they had already settled in their mind that we are going to take our children to this secondary school. Then now you are telling them back, no, the children are going to be in primary school. And you see, those are the things that we are saying. Whatever happened for these things to be established in terms of, you see, they are even saying, in fact, that it is going to be not even grade 6. It's grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. Look at all those things. They ought to have actually gotten some of the views before they started implementing this. So the government really needs to be careful. Before they just put something, before they talk about major changes, they should always make sure that they have gotten enough statistical information to back what they are doing. Otherwise, it is something that really puts us and slows the progress, even in terms of the Kenyan people.
Now, we've come to the end of the Leadership Challenge show this morning, and I hope that you're up to date in regards to what is happening in the country. And Pastor David has just tried to help us understand some of these issues and some of the things the government should be able to do so that can be able to help Kenyans at large. Thank you very much for creating time for me this morning. I was standing in for Reverend Felix Kavoy. Remember, the Leadership Challenge show comes to you every Friday from 7:30 a.m. Have a good day. My name is Brian Alusa, and thank you very much, Pastor David.
Thank you very much
for creating time for us.
Thank you all the time.